Welcome, everyone. It's another episode of Not In, All In, where we just sort of discuss whatever tickles our fancy or something really important in the sports world. Now, because this is done by Not in Hall of Fame, obviously, Halls of Fame are a big deal to us. And if I'm going to do that, I got to have my boys with me, Chris Mouradian, Longhorn Dave Whitlock. Uh, Near and dear to our heart, I think maybe more Dave than anyone else because he's been there many, many times. We're talking about the Baseball Hall of Fame, who today, as we're recording, has announced the official Hall of Fame ballot, or they've released the ballot. The only things that really surprise people are who get left off, and we'll get there in a little point. But before we sort of do that, one bit of housekeeping, actually two bits. Number one, hey, pause. Actually, don't pause. Pause this in a second because you're going to go to www.theusahof.com and we only have 12 more voting days. And you can help decide who is part of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025. And you can vote for athletes, coaches, contributors. We're probably going to do a show that I'm just volunteering these two guys to be a part of for the reveal show. Huh?
I'm in. Yep.
I'm available.
And I've been in before. I'll argue with all you people about PED users, and I'll be attacked, and it'll be a grand old time.
Well, a PED. Sometimes we don't even know if they did take PEDs, but this is
part of the problem and discussion.
Well, that's more for the baseball thing, but then we're talking about the USAHOF, and we're
right.
It's a lot harder for PED users to get in. I do because we do have some who were suspected to be on the ballot. To be used, and we just let it up to you. Great English. Good thing that was my major, huh? My God.
As opposed to Spanish, yeah.
That sort of ties in with what we were talking before. Maybe I should finish learning English before I try to take on another language so I can understand Bad Bunny on the Super Bowl halftime show.
Well, this show's already all over the place, and we're like 60 seconds in. Love it.
That's what I do best.
Yep.
That's what I do best. But the second bit of housekeeping, Dave, you run a blog. And it's a great blog that tells us all who is the sportsman, sometimes a sportswoman of the week. Who might that be?
Yes, as a LHD on sports, which is Longhorn Dave on sports, unfortunately, I had to give the nod to the rival of the Longhorns, the Georgia Bulldogs quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, as he carved up my Longhorns with 4 touchdowns passing, 1 running, and a 35-10 dominant win to solidify their playoff bid and pretty much nullify my Longhorns bid. But well-deserved. There's a lot of good games. I always try to look for the big games, and there was some, certain players that the Carolina quarterback Bryce Young had a great week, and so I try to weigh things in, but ended up settling on Gunnar Stockton as the Longhorn Dave Sportsman of the Week. And of course, you can find that at www.lhd-on-sports.com every week, usually Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. You weren't considering anyone from the Grey Cup, huh?
Yeah, I thought about it, or there's also the Canadian soccer final. There was a lot of consideration. It is a little bit off for some of the world sports, so to speak. There's not a lot of now things are going to ramp up next year. You're going to have World Cup, you're going to have World Baseball Classic, you're going to have Winter Olympics, I think, are happening. So it's gonna be a crazy spring. We'll of course have March Madness, NBA. So things are going on. It's all football right now, though.
Absolutely, and we love it. But this is a baseball show today. And we're going to look at all the returning candidates first. We're going to go with returning candidates and those who have made the ballot for the first time. First off, congratulations to everyone who is here. Because just because you played in the major leagues doesn't mean you get on the ballot. You have to have at least played 10 years to qualify. And we have some people who played 10 years who were not considered for this ballot, including one person I want to mention a little bit later, but we'll get to that later. I wanted to do this in order of how they finished last year. And I don't think this is a very loaded ballot like we've seen, it's like 10, 15 years ago. So this could bode well for some people. And the person who finished atop last year, who probably would have got in had he not banged the drum slowly. Huh? Thank you. Well, yes, there we go. For those just listening, Longhorn Dave's holding up a T-shirt that says, "What's that say?"
2017 World Series champions Carlos Beltrán,
Okay, and
lead trash can banger and organizer of the entire element.
well, he's still the person with the best resume on this ballot. 70.3% last year. This is year number 4. They've made him wait enough. I don't think they're going to make him wait again.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
tend to agree with that. Go ahead, Dave.
I'll start. Just yeah, same thing. Switch hitter did it all. Hit, ran, was a great fielder. Not sure if it was the ballot stacking, or I think there was some punishment by the sports writers that just didn't like what the Astros did, and I don't like what they did either. But it is the world we live in, and we all agree they certainly weren't the only team to do it. But he's certainly got the resume, top to bottom defense. He was an elite center fielder, stolen bases, home runs, batting average, all those things. So he's been on my ballot since year 1. And this certainly with this ballot, I think he's in.
Yeah, for sure. He was the easy choice for me looking at this ballot as far as who I think makes it through to 75% that they need here.
Okay, the person who finished us next with 66.2% last year and ballot number 9. This is a nice jump considering he was lower than 8% in the first 2 years. Another center fielder. Yeah, he was center. Andruw Jones. Mm-hmm. And similar numbers to Beltrán in 434 home runs to Beltrán's 435. Less RBIs. But I think this is also going to be his year.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the hitting stats, especially the batting average that you would kind of expect with a Hall of Famer. His career batting average is right around 250, but he brings the defense metric to the ballot here that nobody else really on this ballot I think can quite match. Several other strong defensive players, but that was really his calling card. That and some power numbers there. And 434 home runs doesn't sound like a lot today, but before the big explosion back in the PED era, that actually carried some weight previously. So I'm with you there, Kirk. I
have that faith.
This is like I could do it. This is Andruw Jones' year as well.
Yeah, I think so. I would start it as a no for Andruw Jones. A little bit more of a classic guy, the batting average, like 259, something like that. It's like, he was never this guy that was just like a Beltrán or even, some Todd Helton, some guys that just was always going to get on base. But boy, when he hit it, he did. Another criticism was how quickly he flamed out after about age 30, 31. But since he started playing at age 19, we might be able to debate whether really 19 or maybe, back in those days, there was some birth certificate fudging to get some eyes and signing of guys. But that's not why we're here. But his defense was as good as I've seen. It was him and Griffey winning Gold Glove after Gold Glove in center field. You knew they'd run everything down that they possibly could. Then you mix in all the home runs. His 2015 season was certainly elite. He was, finishing top 10 in MVPs. He was, towards the after his Braves stint, he got passed around a little bit from team to team. With Dodgers, Rangers, White Sox, Yankees. But certainly, I think, just taking a quick look at his postseason, 18 postseason series. So he was always around the postseason. His teams won. He was good. I came around maybe 2-3 years ago that certainly as far as the modern era and the way he did it without the PEDs, presumably he's the guy. Put him in.
Okay. Someone who's sort of interesting to me. I was a fan, still am, but it's a different sort of era, and this is sort of where the analytics really play a bit bigger factor for a lot of people. Somebody who might have, like, if he was sort of like put up the same numbers, maybe and got on the ballot 10 years earlier, he might have been that generation's Lou Whitaker. And I'm looking at Chase Utley here for next. 39.8% last year, now on ballot 3. So he's moving up very, very quickly. 6-time All-Star, second baseman, 4-time Silver Slugger. Big part of that 2008 Phillies win. I'm a big on, like, did you really help your team win the whole thing? The B War over 60 will be a big part of a lot. And I kind of hope he sort of gets in at some point so that the Veterans Committee can just sort of look back at Lou Whitaker like, what the hell are we doing? So I'm a bit selfish on that one because I love Lou Whitaker, still do. Gentlemen.
Dave, let you take this one.
Yeah, I am just not in on Utley. I saw a good player, not a great player. I'm a stats guy, traditional stats guy. So 259 home runs. You look at a guy like Ian Kinsler that was shoved out the ballot with 257 last year. Kinsler batted 269. Utley batted 275. That's comparable. Brian McCann had more. Let me make sure I'm reading this right on. No, wait, I'm on Alex Rodriguez. Brian McCann had more career home runs, played a more difficult position. He got shuttled out the back. I don't see the appeal here. I don't value defense that much. He was on a winning team, but I mean, it's like I'm surprised he's already at 39.8 and trending up. He's a great ball player, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, if you were to get there through like the Veterans Committee after Lou Whitaker, after Jeff Kent, after Bobby Grich, I'd feel good about it. But on the modern ballot, even in a weak year like this, I couldn't see throwing a vote his way. So he started out as his first ballot. He was on 111. He got 111 votes. Second ballot up to 157. So just kind of looking at the math there, it doesn't really bode well for him this year. I would expect him to take a step forward and probably will make that jump that will kind of draw a lot of attention to him for next year. But I don't think this year is his year. And like I said, personally, I don't value his career as much as several other players that have already been passed over 15, 20 times that he should get in there before them. So that's kind of my stance on him.
No, and all fair. And I think it sort of ties in with what I was sort of mentioning earlier. Right time, right ballot.
Yeah.
Sort of like get through. And I think that's sort of like where some of my maybe misplaced anger towards one of your guys, Dave, Billy Wagner, when I see like John Franco fall off a ballot, Dan Quisenberry fall off a ballot. And personally, I would have those two in their prime ahead of, but whatever. 'Tis neither here nor there. We're not here to debate Mr. Wagner. I did make a bit of a lie early. Carlos Beltrán has the best resume of anyone who did not take PEDs.
Right.
Because finish the fourth highest returnee and someone who will just finish right where he is. And that's A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, 37.1% last year, ballot number 5. Best player on this ballot, period. 2-time cheat. And for those who may have been sort of like following us along and like, hey, I would put Barry Bonds in. Yes, I would, because there was no law against it for baseball. They put that in after he started playing. Did Barry Bonds juice up? Of course he did. How do I know? Well, someone just got a very big head about it. That's all I need to say. I don't need to say anything more regarding that. I don't think anyone doesn't think that he juiced. Alex Rodriguez, thankfully, he kept the same size head, but he was caught twice. Bit of a dick, but I find this one interesting because clearly baseball in its own way has forgiven him a little bit. He's on Fox Sports. He's on something. Has that come out yet? I think where it's him and Jeter. Is that on Netflix or ESPN coming up?
I haven't seen that.
News to me.
Okay, so I think there's something there. I think there's another documentary coming up, and when I sort of look at the banter between A-Rod and Jeter, like on the Fox show, it's like he keeps sort of like coming up to Jeter, like hey, it's that pandering that he must have learned from dating J-Lo all that time. I don't know. Not someone I want to go to dinner with. Do I keep him out of the Hall of Fame? Well, I have to go by my rule. You did what you did, and the union was not support, and the union signed off on you not being allowed to do that.
Yeah, full year suspension.
Yeah, full year, yeah.
Yeah, and that's my line of demarcation. Nothing in the last 12 months has changed that for me. Is what it is. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, until somebody breaks through that, whether it be a Clemens or Bonds on the senior ballot or something like that, I don't think his candidacy moves much more than kind of where it's at here, 37, 40, 45%. Would not get a vote from me at this point. I'd rather let the Veterans Committee decide on him, much the way they're going to decide on Bonds and Clemens this the next couple of weeks here. So we'll see where that goes. But for me, great career. Didn't need to do the stuff he did, and he would have been in already if he hadn't. So numbers may not have been astronomical. They may have just been supersonic or whatever you want to, hyperbole you want to put on there. But yeah, for me, it's a pass again.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think he's going to stall out in the 35 to 45% range. As I've discussed on many of your shows, Kurt, the Bonds and Clemens, they were up in the 60 to 70% range. And people say, oh, it's the damn sports writers. They hate him. No, most of them voted for him. It's that 75% threshold that's difficult. I can't imagine a scenario where 75% of sports writers change their opinion of what A-Rod did and put him in. So he's just going to kind of sit there about third, fourth, or fifth, depending on who gets in, who comes in behind him. But there's not that much discussion around it. We all know the talent was there. The numbers are more than there. His numbers will probably, you could legitimately say maybe top 5 all time when you're talking about 555 home runs. I'm sorry, that 696 home runs from.
555 would have been if he didn't juice.
Yeah, that's right. I was on Manny Ramírez, who we'll talk about in a minute.
Yep.
And that's missing a full season and all that stuff, and he didn't need to do it. So he made his bed. He's going to lay in it. He'll never get the plaque unless some sort of paradigm shift changes, like Chris talked about, where the Bonses and Clemenses get in, and we all just kind of realize 20 years later we're a forgiving society, but certainly not this year.
Well, let's segue perfectly into Manny Ramírez. Last ballot, and I think the powers that be will be happy to get rid of him on the ballot, and just so that they won't have to discuss him any further. 34.3%. Anyone who is voting for A-Rod, I don't know why you wouldn't be voting for Ramírez too. Granted, A-Rod's got the better numbers. Ramírez obviously has the Hall of Fame numbers, but the same number 2 of suspensions. 2 for PED use. And if A-Rod is doing all he can to sort of like repair his image and Ramírez is doing nothing, which I'm sure is fine by him, what changes here? Like nothing, right?
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Same story. I love watching Manny Ramírez as a player who's a super fun player to watch. He was passionate. He'd catch a ball, go grab popcorn out of the fans thing. He played for a number of great teams: the Red Sox, the Indians, the Dodgers. There was Manny Land signs out in the outfield for a while. But yeah, different discussion for different day. Why are you voting A-Rod versus Manny? One or the other. It was always the same with Bonds and Clemens. Like, clearly you knew they were Hall of Famers before. Clearly you feel like they don't. There could be, I'm not sure, could be some personal bias between certain writers that just don't like a guy and keep him off a ballot. I can't imagine that happening. Them not being objective, but that must be what's happening here, because it always been a couple of percentage points. Yeah, I think Manny. I don't think a lot of people are going to fill their full 10 votes this year. That'll be interesting to see in some of those trackers, the tips tracker and all that stuff. But getting him off the ballot, he's clearly not going to make even if he doubled, he would still fall short. So
Yeah, I mean, Control C, Control V with regard to what I said about A-Rod there. It's the same situation. He doesn't do it, he's in already. Definitely a fun player to watch. A little kooky out there on the field, but Manny played to Manny's own drum there, and it kind of maybe backfired a little bit on him there in some places with rubbing people the wrong way. But fun player to watch. Good luck on the senior ballot.
This one's fascinating to me. Andy Pettitte, who had a significant jump, finally getting not first time over 20, but over 25, 27.9% last year. Number wise, you could say he's got the best resume of any starting pitcher. 256 wins, 2,448 strikeouts, only an all-star 3 times, but he was an ace for a long, long time, 5 World Series wins. But popped for PEDs when that was, I guess, legal, not legal in the States, but legal in baseball. Figure that one out. I know Congress tried, and it sort of gave us Palmero's finger and Sosa's inability to learn to remember English. Yeah.
what a shit show.
Oh God, that was hysterical. Okay. Might explain how he was taking all that skin cream and had no idea that it would bleach him white. But anyway,
was the clear?
Yeah, it was the clear. Nice. Though and I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you're gonna get popped for something, you handle it like Andy Pettitte did. Yeah, I did it. I'm sorry. Dude, right away. I don't. For me, he take away the PEDs. He was always sort of fringe to me anyway. But I would never have been bothered if he got in. I don't think he's going to get in. I don't think he has enough time. And I don't think there's a lobby pushing for him.
No, I'm with you there, Kirk. I think his calling card has always been the postseason, the championships and things like that with the Yankees and the number of wins and 19 wins in the postseason. ALCS MVP in 2001. But 256 wins. I mean, that's still back when 300 wins was theoretically possible. So, you kind of, on the fringes there, like you said, you add in the PED, although he handled it the best out of any of them, it's still there. And
nicest guy in prison.
I just don't think that, and I think you look at the resume with or without it and say that he belongs with the greatest of the greats.
Yeah, it's hard. I have trouble with starting pitchers more than any other position. I can kind of couch hitters in terms of they played in this era, so 500 is not as big a deal as when somebody in the 70s and 80s might have done it. But across the board, scant all-star appearances. He was a wins accumulator, so 250, if that's the new 300, he got that. A 3.85 ERA, again in an era where you were facing some Manny Ramirez's and Alex Rodriguez's and Barry Bonds, and they were juicing as much as, and I don't think I feel like he wasn't the big juicer. Like he probably did some things. I think it was mostly injury recovery. Doesn't excuse it. He was the best pitcher for the Astros in 2005, their first World Series appearance. Clemens was on that team, but Pettitte was by far the better pitcher that year when they brought both of those guys in, hometown guys. All that being said, non-starter. I mean, he's not gonna gain a bunch of momentum. He could have a Jack Morris type thing on the back end. I could see that more than some of the other guys we've talked about, where he may get a little bit of support, because I don't think the PED use really led to much more performance like some of the other people. But yeah, he's gonna hang in this area for between 30 never more than 50%.
Okay. Sticking with starting pitching, this one fascinates me a lot, not just because I live in Seattle now. Felix Hernandez, the King, 20.6 last year on his debut. I compare him a lot to Johan Santana. Again, wrong ballot. It's the right ballot for Felix. Both of them were dominant in their day. Felix with considerably less wins than Pettitte, but again, he played a little bit later. And to Chris's point, 300 wins might have been more possible in that era. Now, we're not going to see that ever again, not in my lifetime, unless something changes drastically in how they determine wins, like maybe win shares, but that's neither here nor there. Felix was a Cy Young winner. Felix was dominant. Felix, you knew it by your eyes and you knew it by the stats, traditional, but mostly sabermetric, which a lot of the voters are looking at now. I think this is a great start for him. He's again sort of like with me and how I look at Pettitte. I loved Felix's peak better than Pettitte. If I'm a GM, what do I want? That peak or that longevity? I'm winning either way. But the fact I was just going to say, the fact he started 20.6, he's going to get in eventually. And I think it doesn't hurt him that of the pitchers, and we're going to talk about the newest one coming in, Felix is better than that guy.
Yeah, if you want to talk about peaks, and I've become a person that used to look at the cumulative stats. Okay, how many did you get over 20 years? Here's another guy, of course I got his stats up at, after age 30, his ERA was 3.82 or higher, and it got a point higher every year. By the time he was just basically, wiped out by age 33. But his, 23 to age 29 seasons is good. You can't quite say Randy Johnson, but Pedro Martinez asked, you're finishing in the top 10 in Cy Young, 6 out of 7 years, you're making all-star games every year, you're getting MVP votes. Back to Pettitte, I was looking at his stats, and there was no bold stats on there. He never led the league in ERA. He led the league in wins once because he played for the Yankees. I'm seeing a 2.27 ERA, a 2.14 ERA, 19 wins 1 year. Started, led the league in starts, led the league in innings. He wasn't a huge strikeout guy because that's kind of the smart thing, right? You want to get through enough innings, you're gonna use your stuff. And so I kind of like this candidacy. When I will put out a blog later on who I think I'm going to vote in, and he was kind of my last guy out last year. I may start to tip that way. Again, looking at the future the starting pitching position, and to think how good he was for about a 8 to 9 to 10 year span. There's really a compelling case there.
Yeah, so you mentioned Johan Santana. What the comp I found for him was actually Fernando Valenzuela. We had him mentioned or nominated on the senior ballot, and kind of looking back at his career, and he had a nice little 6-year run, his age 20 to 25 seasons, where he was pulling in, Cy Young votes, all-star appearances, rookie of the year, actually won the Cy Young award in his rookie year. And you kind of compare that to the peak of King Felix there, extra year in there, but you had another Cy Young in there. All-star appearances are pretty comparable. MVP, they're both getting MVP votes in addition to Cy Young votes. Both runner-up Cy Young, twice for King Felix. Fernando was runner-up and then was third another time. So that was kind of my comparison, and obviously 2 different eras, and because of that, you have 2 different kind of what is a Hall of Famer kind of conversations going on. The Fernando era was clearly the 300, 3,000 benchmarks for starting pitching, whereas Felix is a little more looking at some of the secondary metrics, the sabermetrics, the advanced stats, where he tends to shine a little bit more. So I would probably throw a vote Felix's way, especially on this ballot here, where there's so few that really are deserving. but it also kind of, looking at the two, led me to feel a little bit more strongly about Fernando, although there's a different type of ballot that he's on now, and um, we'll take a look at that ballot another time. But yeah, there's enough there, I think, that I want to continue to keep him on the ballot and see what the future holds there.
Another thing to add, 2005, 2019, when he played, the Mariners had 0 postseason appearances, and so he kind of fell out of that radar that we talked about, the Pettittes and the Beltrans and some of those guys that and Utleys that had these big postseason moments. He just never had the opportunity. He played on shitty teams.
Yeah, yes, in Seattle, yes, but at least they've got that that great, those banners, so division champs means so much.
President's Trophy.
Yeah, 2025 West Division champs.
Wild card appearance, yes. Anyway,
we won second place, yeah.
Yeah.
My whole sporting thing is full of participation trophies. But anyway, here's I love this guy. I would have loved to have him on the Jays for years. I don't have him in the Hall of Fame. I have him in the Hall of vastly underrated. Bobby Abreu. Highest finish last year, 19.5, entering ballot 7. Man, I loved watching him play. No one could work a count like he could. But the overall numbers are a little shy, especially based on his position. That's been my take. I would not have a problem seeing him get in, but that's me just fanboying a bit out because I just love watching him play. And I'd probably vote for him if I'm maxing out my 10. If I max out my 10. And even then, I don't know that I would do it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I would vote for him even if I wasn't maxing out my 10. And I probably wouldn't with this ballot here. 400 stolen bases kind of goes under the radar because stolen bases wasn't the thing it was in the early 80s when he was playing. You mentioned that the position he's kind of more expected to be a bigger power hitter. He still had 288 home runs. He had almost 2,500 hits. I mean, if he gets 2,500 hits and 300 home runs and 400 stolen bases, just a few more dinks and dunks that fall in there. I think it's a whole different conversation. But do we? Is it close enough to keep voting for him and seeing where his career stacks up on the rest of these guys here? I feel like it is. So he would easily get a vote from me. I don't know that he's gonna. Well, I think he'll get enough votes to stay on the ballot here. I don't know that he ever catches enough of a tailwind to push him to the top though of ballot and actually end up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he just seemed to be behind the curve on the percentages. I think it started maybe with the crowded ballots, and then people just kind of pass his name up now. Like you said, I think there's room on a 10-vote ballot. He was definitely one for me. I had off, and then I moved to on a little bit like Andruw Jones. Once I kind of looked and said, what are we doing here? I've said I think that his playing for a number of teams kind of hurt him. He played for Houston, Philly, New York, the Angels, the Dodgers. Never really had a mark for any of the teams. You could say the Phillies a little bit. The MVP votes, never a top 10 MVP vote. And half the years he didn't even finish in the top 20. But you start to look at the cumulative numbers, which I said that I like, and I like it. So I moved into a yes vote. I found it interesting. You talk about, his calling card was definitely the walks and getting on base. You say, well, you should be swinging to do more damage. Well, why? Maybe is a question. If you can get on base, because then the next guy comes up and maybe you're playing with a big player behind you. But if you look at OPS, he is fourth on OPS on this ballot. Now, first is clearly, we'll talk about K-Rod, the relief pitcher, who had 2 at-bats and got a double. So that makes it 1,000, that OPS is, I'm sorry, he's just got a hit. So batting average 500, on base 500. But then it's Manny, A-Rod, and Bobby Abreu are the next ones. Then you got to go down, almost 100 points to get to Beltrán, who we lauded, Andruw Jones, who we lauded. So OPS, that to me is still an important stat because you're getting on base and you're hitting for power. So I moved Abreu to yes.
Yeah, you don't score any runs from the bench there, so you have to be on base, whether you get on by walk, hit by pitch, catches interference, whatever, take that free base.
It's also too not like to your points. So like we see a lot of players who do walk a lot. I'm not as worried when I walk Kyle Schwarber as if I walk Bobby Abreu.
Yeah.
Corner stolen bases will do that for you.
Absolutely. Abreu is one I always go back and forth. I mean, again, love the guy, but going back to the 2008 Phillies team that won it all, we got another person who is doing better than I thought he would. 18% last year on ballot, coming into ballot number 5. But he still has to get another big jump. Hit a lot, 2,455 hits, 231 home runs. Jimmy Rollins.
Yeah, I've been moving Rollins up. I'm checking my blog from last year. I had him as the second one out. I had Felix as the first one out, and Jimmy as the second. I had 7 voted in, 3 that got in, plus 4 we've already discussed. But I like that he won the MVP. But he got some Gold Gloves. I think he was one that was overlooked early, so you start under 10%, and you've got to find your way up. But he didn't have several outstanding seasons, just 3 All-Star appearances. If you talked about shortstops of his era, it wasn't, well, here's Jimmy Rollins, top 1, 2, or 3. It just happens to be that there's a ton of good shortstops. So I'm using PEDs, like the A-Rods, but then there's also some Garcia Paras and some guys like that. So I probably still have him out. I'm not always going to keep it that way, but that's where I am right now.
Yeah, he's an interesting candidate. I haven't really developed strong feelings one way or the other on him either. He is a former MVP, but he also really had just a few seasons where he was dominant's the right word. I mean, definitely in his MVP season he was, but where he was really the best of what was running out there each season. Trying to compare him to shortstops of his era, that's you got Jeter there too. So
Right.
He's kind of the gold standard, I think, for his era, and I think that's kind of a tough follow there, but I don't know. If my vote meant we get to talk about him again next year, and we can kind of try to get a little more clarity with his candidacy, I'd vote for him. But like I said, it's not strong either way right now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got the worst on base percentage of any non-pitcher of a returning ballotees, at least. It's just 324. If we're talking about on base percentage, you go to Abreu at 395. It's almost 100-point difference.
Yeah, and you expect somebody that's not a big power hitter like he was to be getting on base more. More of the table setter type player that shortstops typically were back. Maybe a little bit before that era, but kind of still a little bit in that era.
Okay, well, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on this one because he's not getting in. It's never going to happen. Man, Omar Vizquel, he dropped. Well, he's 17.8 last year, which is pretty much where he's going to plateau out. He's entering ballot number 9. The best thing I can call him is Wily Coyote going off a cliff, because he was at 52.6% at 2020. Nobody drops like this in Baseball Hall of Fame voting. I don't have to even do a research to see if anyone's comparable. It didn't happen. It can't happen. I feel like sort of like De Niro in Casino, like that scene where he's sort of yelling at the one guy. It's statistically impossible. It doesn't happen. How did you not know that you were being scammed? But anyway, Vizquel's not going to get in, period. My only question to each of you, take away the scandal that he has. And for those who are not aware, he was accused of beating his wife, and I don't remember him saying that he didn't.
Don't
So
really hear much about it since
his he didn't defend
initial.
himself, to my knowledge. I feel like I
Yeah.
remembered that.
I don't
So,
remember hearing, one way or the other if they, move forward with it or what. I'd have to do some digging.
yeah. So at this point, I guess my question is: take that out. If knowing, would you vote? Would you have voted for him in the Hall?
I think before that, I was voting yes for him based on his defense and nearly 3,000 hits.
Fair, Dave.
Yeah, I was not. I just never felt like he was a presence in a lineup. Maybe a guy at the top. Chris has a good point, though. He's got the most hits of anybody returning on the ballot besides A-Rod. And he was the standard for defensive shortstops. Yeah, 272 batting average, 352 slugging. Just wasn't quite enough for me.
And for the record, you can look back. I said this before all this came up. I was always leaning on the fence. No, similar to what you were saying, Dave. I mean, like he was not a power guy, but he was also a compiler. And when I look at also a lot of his Gold Gloves, I don't know that he deserved 11. Was he one of the better defensive shortstops of his day? Absolutely. But the Gold Glove is probably the worst indicator of any actual award. Rafael Palmeiro winning when he didn't play first. But anyway, a lot of time it was just penciled in. They've taken that power away from the managers because that's who used to decide it. And clearly they didn't care because I've done my history on Gold Gloves, and there's a lot of crappy Gold Glove winners, a lot of crappy ones. And Vizquel probably deserved, in my useless opinion, I am UO in my okay. Maybe 6. So I always thought he was an offensive compiler with over 2,800 hits because he played till he was 45. Actually, I remember watching him in Skydome when he played because he was a J. I think that might have been his last team or close. It would have been like 44 or 45. And in his own way, a defensive compiler. So he was that guy for me. I was always sort of like on the fence on the negative side, but it wouldn't have bothered me if he got in. So, okay. Another former MVP. This one, I mean, if you're a Red Sox guy, you love him. And it's easy to see why. Gave it everything he had, and former MVP, champion, but was not a top guy for a long enough time. But again, this is the Hall of Fame. And sometimes likability sure as hell doesn't hurt. Dustin Pedroia, 11.9% last year on his debut.
I think, but
yeah, I don't have enough to give. There's not enough there for me to vote for him. Rookie of the Year, MVP, great start to his career, and just I don't know. Just to me, he's just 1,500 games, over a 14-year career. He just wasn't available enough. And when he was available, he was good at points, but really kind of just pretty average for somebody to be considered a Hall of Famer. So he was kind of an easier pass for me on this ballot here than some of the other guys.
we seem to be in a cycle of second basemen that we're not sure what to do with them. I was a Jeff Kent advocate for a long time. Now here's a guy that has the most home runs of anybody that played the position. That seems to be something that is all worthy, but he just was never got fire. We've talked about Kinsler. We talked about Utley. Kinsler fell off the ballot last year. So it's kind of like I'm not sure what to where to put Pedroia in that other than the same category as most, and that's out. Occurred to me to kind of compare him to a guy like Bobby Doerr, same city, and Doerr is in the Hall of Fame with slightly longer, bigger numbers, slightly more MVP top finishes. So Pedroia, Hall of very good, but not somebody that you go and say, I can't wait to see the plaque of Dustin Pedroia, the great.
Yeah, only 3 years was he in the top MVP voting. So
All right.
3 or 4 All-Stars. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, going back to pitching, starting pitcher, kind of the definition here of treading water. Mark Burley, 11.4% last year, entering ballot 6, but he debuted at 11%. So he's moving nowhere. The addition of Cole Hamels will do him no favors. And that 2005 World Series win with the White Sox, yeah, that was 20 years ago. It feels like 100 years ago.
The wounds are still fresh for me, Kirk.
Sorry.
Yeah, not much to sniff here. ERA approaching 4. Good pitcher, solid All-Star. I guess I'll click and see that he made 6, 7, 8, no 4 or 5 All-Star appearances. One Cy Young top 5 in that magical 2005 season, but nothing really gaining ground over any of the other guys we talked about.
yeah, I pretty much saw the same thing. Just the 1 year where he actually garnered some Cy Young votes. 215-ish wins there. Unfortunately, just that era, that's just not enough to stand out against the other pitchers that had stronger careers from that era. So yeah, he's a pass for me.
Okay. Francisco Rodriguez, 10.2% last year, entering ballot number 4. The numbers fit. Was a champion with the Angels as I don't think he was even a rookie yet or qualified as a rookie. I don't believe. Did super well there. 457 saves, 6 All-Star games, 2 reliever of the year awards. 4-year reliever, the numbers there. He's got the moments, but he's got to make that Wagner-like jump. And I don't know that he will. I mean, I didn't see Wagner coming out of doing what he did. I didn't, but he's on my 10, a lower part of my 10, but he's there. And I mean, we're in an era where I can't look at innings anymore. I have to rethink how I look at pitchers. I have to give K-Rod that kind of credit, because if I'm going to bash Wagner for not being a great playoff performer, well, K-Rod was. Now, is he at the same level of Mariano Rivera? No one is. No one's even close.
Yeah, it's a different conversation.
It's a different thing. I would like to see K-Rod sort of continue on this journey, but he's that guy every year. It would not surprise me if he jumps up 10%. It would not surprise me if he falls off completely.
Yeah, so he played a few seasons in Milwaukee here, so somewhat familiar with him. He had a rather disturbing off-field incident where police were involved, and because of that, he's always going to be a no-go for me, despite the numbers. Things, as far as the off-field stuff goes, it didn't get prosecuted because the woman involved left the country, went back to Venezuela. So police obviously couldn't complete their.
So I wasn't aware of actually that. So
yeah. So and that kind of being that it was right here, something obviously I had some familiarity with because it showed up in the local papers, but yeah, I mean that's for me that was a non-starter when it came to that. But the other thing too, I had a couple of all-star appearances. They have to take a player from every team, and at that point he was, the player taken for the Brewers because of the
rule
saves, yeah, the rules and the saves. So sometimes those all-star appearances, it looks like adds up, but really somebody had to go and he got to go. So 2 of those All-Star appearances were because they had to take a brewer. So do with that what you will.
Yeah, I've been for K-Rod. In fact, I had him ahead of Beltran and Andruw Jones last year, so and CC Sabathia. So he'll probably be top of my list if I was to just move people up after the what was cleared. Yeah, the career saves just jumps out at me. He's sixth overall. Two of the guys ahead of him aren't eligible yet; they're still active. Then the other three are, near the holy trinity of closers. So he checks the boxes. If you're going to put in closers, like you said, Kirk, I'm going to put him in. I completely understand. There's an integrity and character clause that that particular incident, which I'm loosely familiar with, didn't jump out as bad as maybe some others. Is that an excuse? No. But I'm going to lean to put him in based upon, I think, in the era of closers, and he did it for a long time. Sometimes these days closers kind of flame up for 3 or 4 years, then their arm falls off. But he was able to, get a ton of saves. He had the postseason cred, so yeah, I'm gonna vote him in.
Okay.
I don't think he's gonna get in, by the way. I think because of he wasn't that guy. I think the only reason Wagner got in was some of just the eye popping K per nine and whip numbers to go with some of the dominance. You didn't quite see that from K Rod, so I don't think he's gonna get that kind of boost that Wagner desperately needed the last year.
Okay. I'm just going to lump these two together. We have two remaining returnees. David Wright entering year 2, 8.1% last year. Torii Hunter, 5.1% last year. So he's, as Supreme said, you just keep me hanging on. And he's on ballot number 6. So Wright and Hunter, two players that I think would be very happy to have on our teams for an extended period of time. Both very good, both kind of Hall of very good, and someone I'd vote for if I had remaining ballots. And I'm kind of someone who would probably vote all 10 of my allotment.
Yeah, I tried comparing David Wright to recent third base electee Scott Rowland, and kind of between the two, Wright just kind of came up short, and I wasn't a big Scott Rowland guy either. So I know he got a lot of attention for some defense that kind of really helped his candidacy that Wright didn't have. Wright would have been somebody that if he could have stayed healthy and had a few more years of productive play at third base there, being in New York, playing with the Mets there on the big stage like that, I think it could have helped him out, but I think ultimately he falls short. Probably not somebody I would throw a vote to, but Torii Hunter, on the other hand, is somebody I probably would throw a vote to. Just short of 2,500 career hits, played Gold Glove defense at a premium position in center field there for a long period of time. I think he just had an underrated career. I believe he deserves to have his case examined for longer, and I would vote to allow that to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit going into this, 2 minutes ago, I would have said, yeah, lean more, probably no for both, but lean a little bit more on Wright, giving him a little bit of the doubt for some of the injuries that he went through. But you make a great point on Torii Hunter. To me, I always saw it as a good all-star player, but again, looking at career home runs, he's fifth on the returning ballot behind A-Rod, Manny, Beltrán, and Andruw Jones. Ahead of the Abreu's, ahead of the Utleys, ahead of some of the other guys, and to me, home runs matter. I'll look at him a little more closely. I might put him on my watch list. Like the defense was impeccable. He robbed that home run in the All-Star game. It's just a moment that was memory. He's a super character guy, a team leader, somebody that everybody riled around. Now, really to talk about it, he was 5.1% of the vote. He's right on that edge, so he better not fall. And I don't think this ballot's going to make him lose any votes, but hopefully he hangs around and maybe gets some momentum and maybe even a veteran ballot down the line.
Yeah, I think the lack of top end talent on this ballot here really does kind of help him make it another year. yeah,
At least stay
relatively.
around, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into that. There's 12 new people, and I think only one of them is going to survive. Two should. The second, but so I only want to discuss those two, and then we'll just rattle off the other 10 because they'll be lucky to get 2% combined, and that's they're all getting quality players. You make this ballot, you had a very good career, and kudos to you. But they're very unlikely to get votes. Period. The best one I think we can all agree is Cole Hamels, or the one with the best chance. Another member of that 2008 Phillies team, and he was great in that World Series. He was the MVP of the World Series, NLCS MVP. 163 wins against 122 losses. Again, it means a lot. I mean, Felix Hernandez has less wins than that. 4-time All-Star. Hamels will survive. I don't see how he doesn't on this ballot unless people are not doing full ballots. And I think we're leaning more towards the writers filling them regardless.
Yeah, I think, Felix Hernandez was able to accumulate 20% off a ballot last year with 3 Hall of Famers on it. Then I don't see a reason why Cole Hamels will not get at least 5% plus to move forward for another year.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm having trouble with the starting pitching position. You look at somebody with a ERA in the mid threes during an era when he started in 2006. You're talking some of the big era that happened with some of the slugging, but just he had some Cy Young top tens. I hope he stays around. I'll look more closely, but I'm not putting him in at this point. Certainly Felix. I probably put him ahead of Early, but not Felix.
Okay. I think Chris might have a lot to say on this one.
He's a no.
I'll let him go first.
That's all it is.
Well, for those wondering, here's my 3 strikes and you're out. Ryan Braun, 2011 NL MVP, one hell of a player. 6 All-Stars, 352 homers, 1,963 hits. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Strike 1, PD user, at an era when you can't be doing that, when it's not approved by the Major League Baseball Union.
It was never approved, Kirk, but we know what you're saying.
Well, okay. It was never.
It wasn't banned.
It wasn't banned. There was not an agreement that says you couldn't do it. Strike 2. He's an asshole. How do I know he's an asshole? It wasn't me. He made a claim. Which is really strike 3. It's worth 2 strikes. You want to know what's worse than racism? Fake racism. He claimed that the guy who collected his piss was an anti-Semite. Look, the guy's job is collecting piss. Like his life isn't bad enough. What do you do when you're meeting someone on a Tinder date? I do some work with Major League Baseball. Oh, I can't wait. What do you do? Click. What's that? Click. What? I collect piss. I check on piss, okay? I look at people's dicks for a living and make sure that it's their dicks and they're urinating.
No Whizzinator there. Oh, wrong sport. Sorry.
Yeah.
Use the guy, and pretty much, he's the Jussie Smollett of baseball. Now, of course, the whole thing turned out to be bullshit. And it was probably one of the most disgusting things. I wish Evan Nolan was here. Evan hates this guy more than anybody. And Evan's such a great guy. He doesn't really hate people, but if he hates you, man, you must really suck. Ryan Braun will not do well on this ballot, nor should he. And also, too, I mean, overall numbers, it's not quite there anyway.
Especially for a 2-time busted PED user, because don't forget, I mean, he had the first conviction or whatever you want to call it overturned because they didn't deliver it on time.
Okay, yeah, I forgot.
And then so he didn't learn from that and just kept right on using, and probably did get busted a second time. He was part of that Miami
Balco?
was Miami Balco, or was that San Francisco?
That was San Francisco. I can't. Miami had its own.
Biogenesis?
I don't know. They all kind of run together from that era, but
It all sounds like a Star Trek episode either way, but yeah.
um Wrath of Khan, great movie. Um the fact that he was PED user and his numbers don't stack up to other PED users, just right there. And then you, like you said, you throw on top of it the fact that he's just a fucking douchebag. He just doesn't belong here. I'm not saying that everybody in the Hall of Fame is got high morals. We know there are players in it that didn't, especially from the, shall we say, turn of the century type era and forward a bit. But it was a different era he played in, and he's still kind of rates down as a scumbag. And I hope he gets, 0 votes. I'm sure he'll get some votes because, as you mentioned, there's just so few players that are really going to kind of draw a lot of votes in here. But it should be under 5%. It should be one and done, and hopefully we can be through with this clown for the rest of discussion.
Before we get to, like, was there, living in Wisconsin, so, like, the backlash, like, is that just like top news for like days?
Oh yeah, especially at that time, because that's when the Brewers first started to kind of come out of the doldrums of being kind of a 4A team here. And they brought the infielder, they had Weeks, they had Braun, JJ Hardy, traded for Sabathia, had Greinke there for a while. So that was kind of that turning of when they started to become a contender. And so he was a big part of that. He had the 2011 MVP award that really, looking back on now, should have gone to Matt Kemp.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that was big news at the time because he was one of the faces of the team. It was him and Prince Fielder were really the two big driving forces of the team at that point. And to have him tarnished, well, he wasn't tarnished, he tarnished himself, but you know what I'm trying to say there, that it really took the shine off of what was like a really great story, a really comeback story for the city, for the team. A lot of people were rallying around him, and it turned me off of him immediately. Maybe I just had a bit of higher standards, but people around here, a lot of them forgave him, forgot, and moved on, cheered for him anyways. I
It was never the same after that. I mean, he never came close.
Never came close. Wasn't nearly the player he was when prior to being busted. And yeah, he honestly, I don't think he deserves to be on the ballot, but whatever. Hopefully the sports writers see things my way and he gets 0.
They had a Ryan Braun bobblehead night. I always thought they should have the tester, just like only it's shaking the piss.
Yeah, I think to make it up to him for throwing him under the bus there, he took him out to dinner or something like that. I mean, that's clearly
Seriously?
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry I tried to get you fired and call you racist and a colossal bigot. But here's a steak. We're good.
Yeah. So it was the one that, and maybe there's 2 different defenses here, but it was the first one where the collector did not deliver the sample right away like they're supposed to. He held it like overnight, and that's the technicality that got off the first time. So yeah, so that was his defense against him, kind of smearing him as far as not doing his job correctly. And to make it up to him, he took him, I think he apologized and took him out to dinner.
Oh, okay, took that guy out for dinner. Okay.
Yeah. So as far as the other one goes, I don't know about that.
Oh shit!
Any
That guy's
follow up on
got a
that?
steak dinner.
Yeah, hey.
All right, Dave.
All right. Yeah. What's left to say? So PEDs, I don't go there. So no, I put in a Gary Sheffield, if he didn't do the PEDs, but I didn't for him. The numbers kind of stacked up. I was doing a little comparison while you guys were yammering about whatever, and look at him against Don Mattingly. Very similar numbers, but better numbers. Similar All-Stars, similar home run titles. Both won an MVP. Both kind of flamed out. Pretty much same on base percentage. Braun had more power. Matting a little bit better batting average. And we're all saying that now. You talk about a character clause, complete opposites, polar opposites. Donnie baseball, a baseball guy, good teammate by all accounts. He's a good leader. He's a good manager, whether that factors in or not. So I'm not even comparing those or PED use because I think Donnie had the back. Braun had the I'm not juicing anymore, so my numbers tailed off at the roughly same age. But purely numbers, you could actually say that Braun has better numbers than Don Mattingly and the same number of MVPs. But definite no, not even a second look. He won't appear on any of my ballots or first outs.
Okay. The remaining 10, and if anyone wants to make a case for any of them, please do. Oh, okay. Interesting. So as we sort of go, Alex Gordon, Shin-Soo Choo, Edwin Encarnacion. I shouldn't have said it that way. I'm sounding very non-Bad Bunny fan-like. No? Okay. Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, Hunter Pence. No? Okay. Gio Gonzalez, Matt Kemp, Daniel Murphy, Rick Porcello.
Yeah, the only case I'll make is Hunter Pence because he started with the Astros. I like him. He's a really, really nice young man. He was a good leader for some of those Giants teams. So okay. Hunter Pence, 2026, get him at least the 5%. Let him hang around.
2 World Series wins. Good player.
Chris, yeah, I got nothing for any of those guys. Hey, thanks for playing. You guys had earned some accolades while you were playing.
Solid accolades from this group.
Yeah, but as far as the next step here, it's Hall of Fame. You made the ballot, so congratulations.
All right, so there's only a few people who qualified but were not considered. Jason Kipnis, Matt Wieters, Jeff Samardzija, Kelvin Herrera, Edison Volquez, and Chris Davis, 2-time home run champion, did not make the ballot. And that's got to be a first. It has to be, right? I was trying to find... I found some 2-time home run champions who didn't make the Hall. Mm-hmm. But from what I can tell, they've all been on the ballot. I might be mistaken. I sort of stopped looking after like 1940, like when home, like I was more curious about the dead, if any snuck through in the dead ball era. But
yeah, it's not like this ballot is, overly long or anything like that. It's kind of an odd exclusion there.
Well, I mean, if there was a Hall of Fame for worst contracts,
I think Andrew Brandt has the business Hall of Fame there for stuff like that with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kirk Herbstreit, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And remember, in Canada on July 1st, we celebrate Canada Day.
By spending a lot of money on hockey players.
Yes, but in the US, you celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day.
We do.
Yeah.
Actually, I celebrate both. Because equal opportunity that way. So yeah,
the first player I thought of was Dave Kingman, who won a couple of home run championships, and he was on the ballot.
Yeah,
and got 3 votes. But I just looking at this ballot because I was like, what ballot was he on? Is interesting. Just as a side note, so he got 3 votes. Dusty Baker was one ahead of him with 4 votes, and then Bobby Grich, who some people have kind of circled back on, got 11 votes and was shuffled out the back at 2.6%. Cesar Cedeno, who I was a 5-tool player, I think he had a wife murdering somewhere in there that might have hurt his chances, but he only got 2 votes. But anyway,
he was excellent as Cesar Cedeno in The Bad News Bears and Breaking Training.
that awesome movie, that scene. Let him play. Let him play.
Yeah, I think who was it?
Bob Watson.
Yes, thank you.
Watson.
Come on, man, just let him play.
Yeah. Classic cinema.
It was. And I think my favorite part of that movie is I don't know how the hell that coach Mike Leake has to be the greatest manager of all time, because it seemed like every third at bat it was Kelly Leake. How the hell did he pull that one off?
Like, change the jersey, come on,
or something. I mean, it was sort of brilliant, and he taught Carmen Renzani how to pitch just by stop trying to be everybody else. Like, and like that's all he did. Mike Leake for Baseball Hall of Fame. He should have been a coach of the year somewhere. Had to been. Just like somewhere. It was brilliant. Brilliant.
You have like fictional athlete or fictional coach athlete Hall of Fame?
There is. It's sort of been dormant since I sort of been doing everything with the United States Athletic Hall of Fame.
Okay.
I was going to pitch that, then I just sort of quickly realized. I mean, technically voting's still open, but it's for the finals of 2023, and I'll reinstate that for 2026. Unfortunately, like the ceremony's sort of like been held off because of COVID. Long COVID? No.
Yeah.
No. All right, Kate.
Maybe about 5 years ago, I might have believed you.
Yeah.
Not all of my excuses are gems, but I try. But with that, let's bring this to a close. Go back. So right after you're done watching this, you're going to the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, www.theusahof.com, where you can vote and help us decide who is the part of the third class of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. And the great thing is, all the votes are decided by all of you. We have no agenda. The only thing we have is a committee with a lot of experts. I'm very proud of some of the people that we put forth together. It's not just us. I mean, we've got some former Pro Bowlers. We have some writers from around the United States. Actually, I got a great one from Canada who did a lot of work for the Toronto Sun. I was really proud of that, and who's done a lot of books. Greg Oliver, check out his all the books that he's sort of done. Actually, he wrote a book on one of the nominees. That we could have nominated. He didn't actually vote for it, which is an interesting thing. But that's neither here nor there. So as I always close off, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count, because it never comes again. Take care, everybody.